Hello and welcome to the Prep Talk podcast. Today I am your host, Shayna Davis, and you all can introduce yourself. Ms. Johal, you can go first.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Suki Johal, and I am the social studies teacher and debate coach at University Prep High School.
Hi guys, my name is Madison Horton. I'm a 12th grader at U Prep, period, senior.
Okay, so today the topic at hand is the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, I know, Madison, you participated in a campaign during the summer that Jerry posted on Instagram. Can you speak a little bit about that, please?
Oh yes, after the death of George Floyd, I contacted Miss Johal about planning a protest. It happened, July 13th, and it went really well. Everybody came. We marched up to the police station, I believe,
Yeah.
and bigger things happened there. It was TV, the news crews was there, and we got on the stage and talked about the deaths that's been happening because so much has happened in so little time that is crazy, and somebody needs to speak out about it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Ms. Johal.
So I want to add to what Maddie just said. So when Maddie contacted me, we were talking about George Floyd, we were talking about Breonna Taylor, we were talking about Ahmaud Arbery, and then we talked about the 50 million people hashtag names prior to that, and the people that we don't know. So we initially started the protest at campus marches, and it was wonderful. It was a lot of teens that came out, some kids from UPrep, but then also some kids that were not from UPrep. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib came out as well, which was wonderful. It's nice to have somebody, who represents us in DC that supported our cause as well. And then the march was really good. It was peaceful, of course. We all had our signs and we did our chants. And I really feel like the protest gave us an opportunity to say what we needed to say out loud and not just within our homes or quietly. Like we needed the
Or
public.
like on social media, at least you're out there talking, saying so the world could actually hear you.
Yes. The pandemic, I think, gave us the opportunity to have America turn a mirror on itself and say, look, like this is what's happening. And people who never cared before all of a sudden started to care. And that I think, was one of the biggest things that was so important for the cause. We've been talking about these things for a long time. I had you guys when you were in the 6th grade. We've been talking about these things for a long time, but when you see a bigger audience finally seeing and understanding our concern, it's important. It's literally life or death. That's how important it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
oh, can I add something? We are also hosting our second protest. We're hosting
October 17th.
October the 17th, probably around 2 o'clock, but we'll definitely on social media put out more details for that. For our students who are interested in coming or with their friends or whomever, if you are allowed, I know COVID keeps a lot of us at home, but if you're allowed to come, we would appreciate it very much. If you are not allowed to come, but still want to support, you can reach out to myself or to Madison and make, Black Lives Matter signs or, end no knock warrant signs or Breonna Taylor, like whomever. There's how many hashtags we could use for those. So we would appreciate that as well. But we'll let you know closer to the date as well. But October 17th is definitely the date. That's a Saturday. And we would really appreciate if our kids or families, I know, people's parents and stuff, I have conversations with parents all the time in regards to these kinds of issues, and they're interested as well. So if you want to actually do something or you feel like you need to have your voice heard, as you should, because guess who's going to be running the world in 2.5 seconds? It's you. The high school, young people, I say this every year, young people are the ones that create change. It's not old people. It's always young people. And you are, if you're not voting this election, you'll be voting in the next election. Like, please recognize what has happened to this country since 2016. I know people act like, well, our vote doesn't count or this, that, and the other. Guess what? Your vote does count. just because the Electoral College picks the president at the end of the day, every other position you pick, you are electing the district attorney who should have done something in the Breonna Taylor case. You are electing the attorney generals. You're electing the mayors who can tell the police chief to fire certain cops for doing certain things. There's a lot of power in your voice. There's a lot of power in your vote. And real talk, we need to revamp the system. In debate, we call it burn it down. We want to burn it down and basically restart it, because the system was not made for us. The system is doing actually what it's supposed to be doing, which was
built to put us down. It wasn't made for us. It was made for us. It was made for us to be put down, basically.
Oppressed.
So I would just, I'm here.
So my next question is, what was the tipping point for you with police brutality?
George Floyd. The George Floyd death. That, like, at first it was the Ahmaud Arbery death, and I just saw it, and it was just like, what? And that was the first thing that took.
She got cut out. She'll join back in a minute.
Ms. Johal, you could continue.
Okay, I'll start with that one. The police brutality issue.
I don't know what happened.
Okay, it's okay. Go ahead, Mary.
But when somebody actually caught the death of George Floyd on camera, that was my tipping point.
Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and answer the question, and then we can,
technical difficulties.
Yeah, we are having technical. It's okay. It's okay. Welcome to 2020. Welcome to 2020. So, Maddie, hold tight just a second. Hold tight just a second. So, I'm gonna say, even, you know, I'm born and raised in Toronto, and even though Toronto is such a culturally diverse city, you could still see the racism. It does exist. I know people think in Canada, oh, it's perfect. No, it's not. It's definitely not. So social activism has kind of always been a thing for me, even when I was in high school. But when I moved here, and things like, I'm a history teacher, so I began to learn about how things worked in history, how they functioned, how systems were set up. I can take it back to 1955. We could talk about Emmett Till. Emmett Till was publicly shown, so that his mother allowed that to publicly show his funeral and to show what he looked like, because Emmett Till looked like a sweet little 14-year-old boy. He may have been a knucklehead, I don't know. Even knuckleheads are still sweet. They're just funny. And the fact that they claimed speaking to him. She claimed that he spoke to her, or claimed that he whistled at her. That was her claim at the time. Just for that, you took his life. You tortured him and took his life. That's a lynching. You decided that you wanted to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner, and you did it in such a disgusting manner. So you're taking a child away from the world, his family, his mother, because you didn't like what he said or how he said it. So I need you to recognize, what is the difference between that and the lynchings, when they would lynch people on a tree and everybody would come to watch, like, hey, let's we're having a picnic today, where you're cheesing in the picture, where they were cutting body parts, where they were setting them on fire. And then today, it seems like that form of the overseers doing these things have now turned into the officers doing these things. And like I said, there's only so many cases that we know of. We know Tamir Rice. Tamir Rice they made a split-second decision within 2 seconds of, I am about to take this boy's life. He's 12. I'm 5'2". I am a little Indian girl. Even if a child is tall, you can tell that they are a child. Look at their face. He had a toy gun and they took his life in 2 seconds. They would not do that in other neighborhoods. They would not do that to other kinds of people. And that was one example. This no-knock warrant thing, Come on, that's Ayanna Jones here in Detroit. And DPD, I mean, DPDs have pretty good reputation on the most part. So like, you wouldn't even think, but Ayanna Jones was asleep on her grandmother's couch. And she died because they came in with this ridiculous no-knock warrant and they just bust in there. I guarantee you they're not doing no-knock warrants to, you know, white neighborhoods, or they're not doing it in West Bloomfield. They're not doing it, you know, in wherever, Sterling Heights. They're doing it in Detroit. They're doing it in brown and black neighborhoods, and they're going in like gangbusters and shooting like gangbusters, as the one officer was charged with wanton endangerment because he was shooting all over the place. He was charged for missing Breonna Taylor. If he had hit her, he would have got her.
Not killing her, but missing her. And that's what's like blowing my mind. That girl died. Y'all are charging him with the bullets that went into her apartment, not the ones that killed her, but went into her apartment. What was that gonna do? What was that gonna do? No, she is still dead. Why haven't you charged him? And that's
Wasn't she the one holding the gun, Maddie, when they came in? They say they saw Kenny with the gun.
Oh.
So how come he doesn't have any bullets?
Yeah, they got away with murder.
And they got away with murder. Shayna, when we were still at the middle school, I didn't have you for social studies, but the class of 2020, I did have them. And we did a project called Black Lives Matter. And at that time, I had pulled an article where it was over 100 people that had been unarmed, people of color that were unarmed, killed by police. And I printed out their pictures with a little blurb of what happened to them, and I put it all around the room. At first, you know, the kids didn't really know what they were looking at. They were just like, look at her hair, or look at his teeth, or whatever. And then they started, you know, they're kids, they're in the 8th grade, and they didn't know who these people were at this point. But then they saw Trayvon Martin. They saw Tamir Rice. And then it clicked to them as to what this was. And they were like, all of these people were killed by police and they were unarmed. And I think that for class of 2020, like that was kind of their awakening to, this is not a one time, this is not a 2-time, this is a regular. And how many cover-ups. Right now, I believe the gentleman's name is Ronald Breen. Please excuse me if I'm not saying his name right. His case it took over a year for them to find out. The recording came out that the police officer was like, yeah, he was alive when I had him in handcuffs, but we beat him to death. And he said it in the recording. It's been over a year. How many of those cover-ups have happened? The Laquan McDonald case in Chicago, that was a cover-up until people find out. And when I say a cover-up, I mean this is going up. This is going up into like either to the mayor's office or close to the mayor's office. So it's not just the police officers that are hiding it. They have a system to back them, to hide these things. And to serve and protect, it's just words at this point. Like, who are you serving and protecting?
You're supposed to be our protectors, and now you're our killers. Like, why? It's not supposed to be like that. You are supposed to feel safe around you because you are supposed to be the ones who supposed to save us. If we are in trouble, and we call 911 because we feel like we should be safe around you. But now we're so scared to call your number because we don't want to be the next one to die.
Because they'll end up, a lot of times, they'll come for you instead of come for whoever the assailant actually was. That was the young man who was shot a bunch of times in the back when he was breaking up a fight. And his kid watched him die in the back seat. Like who do we call? Who do we call?
That actually leads us into the next question.
Okay.
So as a Black Lives Matter activist, what is your point, or what is your point of view on justice? What does that specifically mean to you?
For justice, mine's equal rights. It's not like we want revenge. We don't want nobody else to die. Because if we look for revenge, we're just gonna ask for more of our people to be killed. Because that's how it's gonna end up. We want justice. We want equal rights. We want everyone to be treated as one whole, and not that we're below or above one another.
Absolutely. Just to be clear, like, we're not part of the Black Lives Matter organization. We literally believe in the phrase Black Lives Matter, not Black Lives Matter more than anybody else, not all these things that people make up. Like the Colin Kaepernick thing, everybody kept saying it was against the flag. None of that. And let's be real, we know that was not true now either, because that last football game that happened in Kansas City, where the players went to the middle field and they all locked arms, it wasn't during a flag, it wasn't during the raising of the flag, it wasn't during a national anthem. It was a straight show of unity for against police brutality, and the fans booed them. So what are you booing? What exactly are you booing? You're booing the equality of the people. You're not booing, like I said, it's the disrespect of the flag or the national anthem. All right, I hope I answered. I'm not sure if I answered the question or not.
You did. That was a great job.
Okay.
Now, this question is more so directed towards you, Ms. Johal. Madison, feel free to answer any way that you would like. But what is systemic racism for those who do not know? And is there really anything that we can do to stop it?
Excellent question. So systemic racism, it's kind of in the word. There's a system built in this country that is essentially to oppress people of color. And examples of that would be redlining, where you can only buy houses in certain neighborhoods. Examples would be certain small business loans that maybe a white person would be able to get in the city of Detroit, but local residents wouldn't be able to get those. It's kind of like you don't get the benefit of the doubt. Systemic racism could be things like stop and frisk, where the police are allowed to stop you, and for whatever reason, oh, you were jaywalking, and they're allowed to stop you and check you and ask you for your ID and whatnot. But in that case, who is it that they're stopping? Like, can we count how many white people are they stopping and how many people of color are they stopping? Though the police are built into the system, they are part of the system. And if your mentality is, and it really at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're a white cop or a black cop. At the end of the day, people of color are looked at in a certain way. And like I said, white or black, a black cop can stop you and do the exact same thing. Do you remember that one scene in Boys in the Hood where Furious shoots at an intruder? If you remember that, and the way that the cop talks to Furious, and Furious is looking at him like, brother, you don't even understand what you're talking about. And then later on in another scene, he pulls Trey over, and because Trey is dressed nicely, he thinks he's like a drug dealer or something like that. It's the mentality of who Black people are. And once you get that in your mind, and if you are part of the system, if you are a person who's making decisions, like a district attorney, like a police officer, like a mayor, like a principal of a school, please, like a teacher, you have a certain privilege, but that comes with a responsibility. And the system can and has done things that have favored white people over the rest of us. And that is how the system works. And I hear kids say all the time, or even adults, I'm not into politics, I don't care about that kind of stuff or whatever. At the end of the day, politics does care about you, because they're gonna decide how much money you get on food stamps. They're gonna decide, if you are allowed to, get certain scholarship money for this, that, and the other. They're the ones who are gonna decide if you can get an apartment that's rent controlled. They're the ones who are gonna decide what is happening in our communities. There's a new phrase out, or I guess it's a call, defund the police. You may have heard it before. And then people will be like, oh, if we get rid of the police, what's it gonna look like? Who said we're getting rid of the police? Why don't you look up the definition of what defund the police means? It means that we're going to add people and then eventually remove police from those positions. But we're going to add people who know how to deal with mental health. So those people go out to those kind of calls and calm situations down, de-escalate them as opposed to escalating the situation. Imagine if two kids were about to fight at UPrep and then I start egging one on, like, yeah, Shayna, did you hear what Madison said? Or I'm like escalate, making a situation worse. Like if you're having a bad day and then I just start going on you for something like completely irrelevant and I'm making you angrier and angrier, that's not de-escalating the situation, that's escalating the situation. What a teacher is held to a higher standard than a police officer. Like I understand the police officer only goes to school for so much time to learn the law when a lawyer has to go for years and years, but that's also part of the problem. There needs to be like reform. We need to change things in order to make a difference, or else you all are about to grow up in this mess the same way that we have. But you know, we're making change. We just need to make it faster and permanent.
I feel you. So what is the relationship between the Black Lives Matter movement and the Civil Rights movement?
I guess looking for which is crazy. So we're still, so things that were happening before any of us were born, we're still fighting for those that equal protection under the law. We're still fighting for the systemic racism to work itself out of the system. We need to get it out of the system. So back then they were, they're essentially fighting for, like I said, a lot of the same things. Equal rights, voting rights, how many things could we think of? Same things that they were fighting for then, women's rights, LGBTQ plus rights. I don't know if I said the correct terminology for that. I apologize if it's incorrect. But you know what I mean? Like we're still fighting for those exact same things and people just aren't allowed to live. People just aren't allowed to live. Back in the day, they could just come into your house like a slave catcher or the overseer could just come into your house and, just take you, whatever, just like they did Emmett Till. And today you can be asleep in your home and get shot up. You could be eating ice cream in your home like Botham Jean was and get shot up by police. Who else was at home? Aiyana Jones, sleep on the couch, get shot up by police. Like, geez, like, can you do anything? Are you allowed to do anything? Like we hear all this Karen talk and, people calling the police, for people barbecuing or a little girl selling water on her stoop or whatever it is. Like, can people just live? Can people just live? And it's literally the same exact things that Martin Luther King, Philip A. Randolph, Malcolm X, like everybody, Rosa Parks, like everybody you can think of, all the same things that they've been fighting for. So my hero, Angela Davis, she is like, she wrote this amazing book called Prisons Are Obsolete. And yeah, like there's the whole system works against us. And she was fighting since the 60s and whatnot too. So she's part of that. She's still fighting that fight. We're just newer people joining the fight. We haven't stopped. That civil rights movement, it might have died down for a little minute, but the people who were truly in it, were still in it and are still in it to today. Last school year, we were, the debate team was able to meet Cornel West, Dr. Cornel West, and Danny Glover. I know everybody knows him from like what are those movies? I forget, those, whatever it's called, the cop movies. What's it called?
Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon, thank you, baby. So he's just not an actor. He is also a social activist. So we got to meet with them and the conversations with them, they were around back then and it's the same thing. It's literally the same fight. And they were so happy that young people at UPrep were having just such amazing in-depth conversations, complex conversations about issues that maybe other people wouldn't get. And I was like, well, that's the beauty of it. Nobody recognizes our kids to have that kind of brilliance, but they do.
Maddie, do you have anything to add?
Like, she didn't cover most of it. Like, the civil rights movement and the Black Lives movement is all about fighting for our rights, the rights that we deserve. Like certain things that they talked about back then, we're still fighting through today. Like I don't even know how to explain it now because she just said most of it for real.
Sorry.
She's straight.
So this is for the Black community because we do a lot of separation between ourselves. So we do the light skin versus dark skin. And I feel that we need some tips on how to stop the separation between us. So can you give us some tips?
I can honestly say the Indian community does the exact same thing. The light skin versus dark skin, or we're farmers and landowners and you guys are like shop owners, so we're different than you. All of that nonsense. But Shayna, you said the light skin versus dark skin. The problem is that we're all trying to follow these European standards of beauty. And it's not just Black people. In India, they have this cream called Fair and Lovely, and it comes in this pretty pink tube. And if you put it on your skin, then you'll be beautiful and have light skin, and that's what you want. And any features that look European, you always get like praised for. The tips on not to, real talk, it's education. If people can understand that whether you're light skin or dark skin, the cop is still gonna pull you over, or whoever it is. They're still gonna look at you sideways. If your name looks ethnic, you're all in the same boat. You know, if you're Latoya, and you're light skinned Latoya, you're dark skinned Latoya, guess what? In their eyes, you're still Latoya. So it's a matter of, I think, coming to that awakening and understanding that without us being together, I think Barack Obama's election was the perfect example of people coming together and making a real change. I 100% was like, there's no way they're gonna let him, there's no way they're gonna let him become the president. They're not gonna let a Black man be the president of the United States of America. And then he did it. And then I was like, everybody's crying. I went to the inauguration. I was there. I went to every single event I could get into at the inauguration in DC. It was a love fest. It was amazing. And I can say, it didn't just unite the Black community, Shayna. If you were in DC at that time, there was so many people there that didn't even speak English, but they were so happy that finally a person whose descendants would have been, slavery is the first thing they think of when they think of the United States, even though his dad is African. They didn't, that they weren't thinking about that. But the fact that he could become the president, the whole world wanted Barack Obama to win. And that was unity beyond Black people. That was a unity beyond Americans. That was a unity of like the global community. And it was the first time I've ever seen anything like that. It was truly amazing. So if people could really understand what coming together can do for you, I don't know, that's the only thing that I could think of that would like make a difference. If everybody was similar minded in that sense.
Yeah. I just feel that it's a problem in the Black community today, how we say light skins act like this and dark skins act like this. Mm-hmm. I just think we should all act as one. And God made us who we are, and we should all be as one, not separated. So,
and they try to make it seem that light skin is more beautiful than dark skin when we're all really just the same. We all came from the same place, and that's why I remember Miss Johal talked about in slavery they'll have the lighter skinned work in the house while the dark skinned work on a plantation. Mm-hmm. They make it seem like the light skin is closer to white than the dark skin. Mm-hmm. Yep, but in reality, we're all just one skin color, lighter.
The brown paper bag test.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The can you pass? The passing, you're able to pass.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. We just all need to come together.
Absolutely. Joyce DeGray, I don't know if you know who she is, Dr. Joyce DeGray. She does she told this amazing story. This is how I was introduced to her. She told this amazing story about how her and her cousin went grocery shopping. And they went grocery shopping in her neighborhood. And her cousin is light, can pass for white. And when she went up to the register and was paying with a check, you know, they asked for ID. They looked through the book that says, you know, people that don't accept checks from these people. Like, it was a whole like ordeal for her. And then her cousin, who was right behind her, went to pay the exact same way, and she didn't ask her for any of those things. But the teller also didn't realize they were related. So she asked her, she said, well, why did you ask her for her ID and stuff? Why aren't you asking me for my ID? And she said, well, I know you've been here before. She said, correction. She lives here. She's been here before. I just moved here. I've never been here before. And that was just so clear as to other people creating those kind of differences and whatnot. But what she did do to unite the light dark was that she used that light skin privilege to speak up against how she discriminated against a darker skinned Black woman.
And that reminded me of this video on Instagram that me and Ms. Johal watched when this young man, he was pulled over by a cop, a white lady, and he had everything that he needed. He was right in front of his house because she said that he ran a stop sign or something. Yeah. And he had his license, registration, and everything. And his mother kept asking, the cop was like, why are you still here? What else do you need? If you write him the ticket and let us go. Yeah. But he was like, I need to wait on backup. If the white person ran a stop sign, you ask for their stuff and you give them the ticket and you let them go. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between those two?
Yeah. And thank God his mother was there for that. Mm-hmm. Because the Eric Garner case, he was selling Lucy's outside of a bodega in New York. They could have gave him a ticket and kept it moving, but mm-hmm. They didn't want to. They didn't want to give him a ticket and keep it moving. Eric Garner says, he's like, why do you guys keep harassing me? Like, stop bugging me, let me live. So mm-hmm. it's the same kind of thing. Like, they're choosing to not de-escalate. They're choosing to escalate an issue. I feel like we got away from the unity question, but we kind of fell in.
It's okay. It's okay. It is okay. But I do want to thank you both for being here. This was a very important podcast for me because I know that when I was younger, I used to have a problem with my skin color because a lot of my family is lighter than me. And so I would get looks in the store and be like, why are you so dark? I used to have a problem with that when I was younger until I got older and I met you, Miss Johal. You and the rest of my family helped me see that my skin is beautiful, my color skin.
And you realize how beautiful you are.
That's what I did.
Thing, especially in middle school, they'll say that I'm so dark, or like, you know, the little joke, African booty scratcher, and that's just ignorant. Yeah. It was, but I learned to love my skin color, and I'm glad I'm able to speak out about Black Lives Matter because our skin is beautiful, and we should be treated as if we're dirt. Any people of color, like, it's just not okay. So I'm glad we have the time to speak out about this, especially with the pandemic going on. Everybody's going to listen.
Right. And I appreciate, Shayna, that you guys let us speak out, and this is the topic that you chose. I really appreciate that because, you know, I'm not around the kids right now. So we don't get to have our little conversation in the hallway or whatever. And I don't know any of the freshmen this year. So this is wonderful that we at least can let them know. I mean, I know you see it on the flags. I love the flags. Thank you, Prep, for putting up those flags. The kids really wanted it. We really wanted it. So they need to recognize that they are welcome, that they are wanted, that they are a part of this community. And dark skin, light skin, whatever skin, it doesn't matter. It's all love. It's all love. It really is. And you know, UPrep is the best school in the city. So
what?
Hey, you know it. You know it. So I mean, we're winning all around. We're winning all around. And I thank you again so very much for touching on this. And if any kids, freshmen, if you guys are interested in anything, I know you don't know me. I'm Miss Johal. Feel free to reach out. If you start typing Johal in your email, it'll pop up eventually. So if you're interested in anything, like, let me know. I'm the one. I'm definitely the one.
Most the one.
Yeah. And there's other teachers too at UPrep that are like active too. So we just got to make sure that we keep having these conversations. Stay aware of what is happening, and then when it is your time to vote. So this is my best advice. You ready? Best advice. Don't just vote at a presidential election. Vote every 2 years at least. I'm gonna say that one more time. Don't vote every 4 years only for the presidential election. Vote every 2 years, because every 2 years you are adding people to Congress. And my life's goal is to fill up Congress with my kids, because we need people with brains and with hearts. So yes, every 2 years, if you pick people that work for us, pray to God that this will change. Something's got to
change.
Yeah. Make your parents vote. Anybody's older than 18, push them into voting.
Is there anything you would like to add, Maddie?
Make sure to come out for our protest October 17th. We'll get more information put on social media, but this is the time to speak out, especially now that we're back in school. More students want to speak out about it. It's not just us and just people that's on the streets. More people want to come out and speak about it, and I'm glad that they had the opportunity to do that. So remember, just come out October 17th to speak out.
And your voice is important. Your voice is so important. Like young people, like I said, young people are the ones who make change. Your voice is important. So please don't think that you don't have anything to say that's worth saying. It is. And we want to hear it. The world wants to hear it. Sorry, I'm done.
Thanks for tuning in to the Prep Talk podcast. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Hey!